We continue to look back this afternoon at a time many of us remember well, the Toledo Water Crisis.
Sort of hard to believe we're coming up on 10 years.
Yeah.
Earlier, Ryan Weekman broke down predictions for this year's bloom, and recently Jeff Smith sat down with Toledo Mayor Wade Kapszukiewicz to see what he says the city has done in the decade since to keep our drinking water safe.
Plus, what he says still needs work. Take a look.
Well, this year marks a major milestone, 10 years since the water crisis. It was August 2nd, 2014, when that do not drink advisory came out in the early morning hours. Since then, there have been renewed efforts to protect our water. We've seen a focus on Lake Erie and huge improvements to prevent it from happening again, something Toledo Mayor Wade Kapszukiewicz talked about in 2019.
I don't think we will ever see a drinking water crisis in this community ever again.
The Toledo Mayor joining us now here once again, and coming up on this anniversary this year. Initial thoughts when you looked at the calendar and you said, wow, it's been 10 years.
Well, first of all, initial thoughts since I saw that video from 2019 is I've lost a few pounds.
Well, that's good. Congratulations.
That's okay. 10 years has gone by, and in some ways it's hard to believe it's been 10 years, but in some ways the crisis is still with us, though not from a drinking water perspective. I mean, though I look a little differently than I did back then, I still agree with the sentiment of what I said. We do still have a lake water problem, but we no longer have a drinking water problem, and that is because the citizens of Toledo, unfortunately with very little help from the state or federal government, reached into their pockets and made the investments at the Collins Park water plant now that allows us to take water from what is still a polluted source, and now it allows us to feel comfortable that what comes out of the faucet is not just drinkable, but actually since the water crisis, we've won awards for the quality of our drinking water. The shame is we've even had to invest $500 million to make sure that we have all the most modern gadgets and gizmos and doohickeys at the Collins Park plant to make sure that the water is drinkable. It would be nice if we had some help from our friends in Columbus and Washington who for 10 years haven't done anything to help us. So we have had to bear the burden ourselves almost exclusively to get to the point where we can still be worried about the quality of the lake, but we don't have to be worried about the quality of our drinking water.
Graduated levels of concern, and we think back to 2014. Obviously, we've gone through a pandemic since then, for gosh sakes, Mayor. But when we look back at 2014 and the level of concern there and the fact that nobody died, nobody got, deathly ill from anything that we went through that weekend. But I bring this up because I've gone around talking to the Regional Water Commission members this week, and they have said to me that the one good thing that came out of this was the commission. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, that happening...
They said politics no longer became water no longer became a weapon, and politics was out of the cards.
I think that was one of my priorities in my early days as mayor, was helping to put the politics aside and cooperating over water. I mean, water is our greatest resource in this region. We're sitting on we have 20% of all the fresh water on planet Earth in our backyard, and at a time when the Earth is getting drier and thirstier, that's going to be a heck of an advantage long-term for our community. It never made sense that we fought over it. Heck, the reason the city of Oregon exists, literally, was because of a fight over water. They wanted Toledo's water, Toledo in 1958 or 59. Toledo refused to give it to them, so they said, the heck with you, we'll form our own city and build our own plant. We've been fighting over water for almost 100 years. Just from a sense of regional stability, it made sense to cooperate. I know that was one of the things I campaigned on, but I think it is also the case that the crisis in 2014, which had just happened, was probably, in some ways, a unifying event that sent a signal to all the political players, all the mayors of Maumee and Pearisburg and Toledo and Sylvania and the rest, that we need to come together and cooperate. I think it is one of the great successes we've enjoyed over the last couple of years.
And if I say to you, where are we now? Are we in a better place 10 years down the road?
Well, there's no question on regional cooperation. We're in a better place. We weren't cooperating even 6 years ago. Now we have contracts in place for the rest of my life with our suburban partners, and that's how it should be. We're cooperating over our greatest resource, not fighting over it. We're actually also in a better place on the quality of our drinking water. Again, not to get too technical, just 2 years ago we spent and again, there's a cost to this, $50 million to create a state-of-the-art, it's called an ozonation process, which essentially we introduce ozone into the water filtration process. Ozone quite literally kills microstesin, and by introducing ozone, we utterly eliminate any possibility of water being toxic and poisoning us. So we never again have to worry about our drinking water. So we're better off in that regard. It is a shame, though, I'll continue to say, that we've gotten so little help from the federal EPA, the state EPA, and that the folks who have caused the problem. Again, the reason that we had a water crisis is because
phosphorus buildup in the lake.
Phosphorus buildup.
Yeah.
And sometimes the politicians of Columbus try to blame cities because we have wastewater treatment plants. Well, that's true. Their own studies indicate that those wastewater treatment facilities are part of the problem. Yeah. Numerically, about 4.5% of the problem, 95.5% of it comes from not small mom and pop farmers, but these enormous CAFOs, this huge agribusiness, which continues uninterrupted to pollute our water source. So our lake is still a problem, even while we can celebrate the fact that we no longer have to worry about our drinking water.
You get up in the morning, you go down to the kitchen, you get yourself a glass of water. You ever think about it?
I never think about it because I never think about the quality of what I'm drinking because I know it is not only safe, it is award-winning. I never think about it then. When I'm at my office, I do think about our lake and the unfairness that the taxpayers of Toledo have had to tax themselves to the tune of $500 million, while the state, primarily the state EPA and the state legislature, looks the other way as these huge CAFOs continue to create the problem. It's among the least fair things I can ever imagine happening in public policy when you really think about it. A problem being caused by others elsewhere has been corrected and paid for exclusively by the people who aren't causing the problem.
Let me ask you this, final 15 seconds. What is being done to get on the horn with the feds, with the state, and get some help? If you're saying they're not helping us, what are we doing to get their help?
We're suing them. The Lucas County Commissioners and the City of Toledo just in the last 2 weeks have brought suit against the state and federal EPA. In our judgment, they're not doing their job. They are not enforcing the standards that have allowed Lake Erie to get the way it is. The fact of the matter is, this isn't a complicated solution. All you have to do is regulate the phosphorus that spills uninterrupted. They refuse to do it. They don't do it. And if you were going back to the water crisis, you remember Governor Kasich and all these bold proposals. Oh, in the next 5 years, we'll have a 40% reduction. There has been a 0% reduction in the amount of toxicity in the water. In some ways, by some measures, the water is more toxic today than it was 10 years ago. The state and the federal government has done nothing. All of the money they've spent, you hear about H2 Ohio, that's adorable. That's nice. It's totally wasted money because it is voluntary. You talk about the carrot and the stick, it's all carrot, there's no stick. And because there's no stick, the pollution continues. We have to pay for it, which we're happy to do because otherwise we wouldn't have drinking water. Look, we're in a better place because we can drink our water with confidence now. But it doesn't mean the path to where we are today has been fair, and that's why we continue to fight about it. And in this case, we continue to litigate about it.
Coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the water crisis of 2014, of course, for any of our past coverage, you can look at our website, WTOL.com. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And like Jeff mentioned, check out our coverage of the water crisis right now at WTOL.com. You can also text the word water to 419-248-1100 to have a link to everything sent right to your phone.
We also want to hear from you. Send us a video of what you remember from the water crisis. You might see it right here on WTOL.